I'm moving home. That's right. Just like every other millennial, I am quitting my job, moving home, and living with my parents. So, what are the things I have to do to earn my keep? Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen, my co-host and father, and soon-to-be landlord is Brandon. If you enjoy the channel, take a brief pause, hit the like button, throw a comment below, and consider hitting the big red subscribe button. Yep, you heard me right. In the intro, I am moving home and have to pay rent somehow. So, what does that mean for all of us? Other than nefarious acts after night under possibly a red light outside, what are we gonna do? Things are about to change, and that also means the backdrops, the setting for these conversations, everything is about to change. I can't stress that enough. Which I know is one of the many tasks that await my arrival. So, with that, I'll send it to Dad for his insight to today's topic, which is what am I gonna do, man?
Well, honestly, you're going to do any damn thing your mother tells you to do because that's what I do.
I feel
Uh,
like the pug kind of has a say to that as well. He
oh my
whines
God,
enough that she
that
just
dog.
instigates, like, oh, my
Yes.
poor baby. I gotta make sure he's taken
I
care
think
of and given treats.
we've asked the question, what would she do if the pug and I were caught in a burning building? What would she do?
Oh, definitely
Yeah,
him.
she's lying. She says she would throw the pug on top of me and then drag me out. I'm not believing that. I think she'd grab the pug and run.
A lot of extra work for the pug, but yeah,
Giving him mouth to mouth, she had to on the way out.
exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
No, it's
mean,
going to be good
oh,
to have you home.
yeah.
7 years you've been in the Army. It's been a long time. So you get to be more involved with the ranch, even more than you are. I mean, these conversations, we started these when you come home from Afghanistan, and more of an educational thing for others. Not only that, but doing the best we can for the industry, hopefully, and what our little teeny tiny piece of the pie, what we can do for it. But it's ranch work. We've got a lot of stuff. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
We've got this house here that has got a lot of work that needs to be done on it. And we've been working, we've got a whole heating system we have to change out. We got an old hydronic system in this thing that is, oh God, 50, 45 years old, and it is tired. And so we're trying to upgrade that, do that so we can have a geothermal system put in, and then kind of move some doors around, put some walls in, take some walls out, add some rooms, put on a garage, a lot of things like that. And you might be swinging a hammer.
Yeah, that's you said that after the HVAC guy came today and you're like, "Hey, how much construction do you want to get into?" I'm like,
Well, and it's really frustrating because I contacted the guy that we talked to in June, and he said,
which
"Well,
I think I was home during that
I
time.
think you were."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, we can't get to it right now, but this fall we'll be able to pour some concrete, and we could let it sit over the winter and then start in on the spring, which is totally reasonable."
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That never happened, and I got a hold of him again today and I said, "Hey, where are we at on this?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm really busy." I'm like, yeah, well, problem is the guys that are do quality work are busy,
Yeah.
and they have a hard
Especially in
time.
Montana right now.
Yeah, and they have a hard time getting people to work for them. Um, you know, so when they do, they are swamped. And, so we might have a deal where possibly we work with a guy and you and I are going to be doing some framing and whatever needs to do. You can do the overall, portion of it, but it'd be almost like we're working for him. But so we'll see how that works out. I've
Yeah,
done a
I
little
was
bit, I've done a little bit some building, but I'm not real comfortable tying into structures and roof lines and things. And I've done that too, but I just was like, just don't care for it so much.
you kind of lose the confidence factor with it.
You do when you don't do it every day,
Yeah.
and you see a way to do it. And, there's a lot of different ways to build things too. And everybody's got their own ideas about how to do it. So that's kind of can create, kind of an issue.
Yeah. to go back to what you said, I'll start kind of with what you started with, and that was I just put down growth. That's kind of my note is you said we started this. This was, the channel came about in October of 2020. This will come out in April of 24. So we're looking at 3.5 years ish, roughly, by the time I'm home,
Yeah.
which is cool because I've seen, over time, and thank goodness I've had the foresight to take some very basic information of statistics every week from when we started. And I started keeping the records and I've looked at the analytics every week because I pull them every single week and I can see our growth over time. And when I'm really downtrodden and I'm just like, we're not getting anywhere with this thing, and I see some of the growth, I'm like, okay, you know what? We're making an impact
Yeah.
too. But
Well, we hear, and it's feedback. We hear some really good things, back we got some people who listen, you know, loyally, and we
yep,
appreciate that. I mean, it's
yep.
awesome to see that, and we strike a chord with some folks that are, nostalgic, and others who want to, and I mean, it's all the way across the board. So, your mom and I actually went to a Ag Legacy series put on by the USDA and it's like the Farm Services, basically the extension agency, and the extension agent here locally, and brought in a lot of guest speakers. Some really good information come out of that today, so like marketing and how stuff was, and it was kind of funny because I had a question that came up, and about ethanol uh, from corn. Distillers doing that, and I asked the question about, as this grows, what will that do to affect the price of feed corn? And how will that make a difference? And I had like a three-part question, and he's like, God, I've never thought of that. So I thought, there's a guy, he's a PhD, he's an economist.
So
And
you were talking kind of coming into my world right now, the
yeah,
bourbon stuff, the fact that the bourbon industry has bloomed so much that you're wondering how much that's going to have an effect on feed corn for like
no,
animals. Is that
no, this is more ethanol for biodiesel. And
okay?
but they're taking the corn, and shifting that to make diesel. But like you said, there's also waste off of that, which is where distillers grains come from for feed for animals. And I think, okay, but how many nutrients are taken out of that?
Right.
Or is it now concentrated? I'm looking for statistics, looking for numbers, looking for some trends there. And because when you come home, these are some of the things we have to look at, think about, and plan for. And doing some education on our end like that is always helpful. So, kind of bringing that full circle, you're going to be probably doing some educational things as well. I've encouraged that with you and Braden, your brother, as well. Just because you have been doing something doesn't mean you're doing it right or couldn't be doing it better. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
putting that ego aside and doing, some of these things that take a little effort is important. I mean, we're asking people to do the same thing with our conversations, is like kind of put your ego aside and see things from our perspective, and we're not trying to tell you how to do it. We're just telling you how we do it from our perspective and with what resources we have.
Yeah.
So
Well, and to go back to that growth part, I think that's the important thing too, is like I had a list of books for for me, more or less, but it was in relation to the ranch and the growth. And so you and mom got me those, I think it's like 6 or 7 books. I'm looking at 'em. I think it's like seven
for
over there
Christmas,
for Christmas. Yeah.
yeah,
And like I read one of them real quick, and it was about following and marketing, like you were talking about. So like you said though, it takes work. Even the digital stuff takes work. And what's crazy too is relating, like pulling all this together to what I started with and what you're talking about too is like we originally started this channel in October of 2020 of it would be all forums pretty much like this. We had always thought of kind of making a podcast style because podcasts at 2020 were like booming. And they've
right.
since died off, but now
Well, I think people get tired of them.
they do.
Everybody tries to jump into something, so you get some fatigue factor there.
Yeah. But the thing is that what makes us kind of unique is we talk, specifically agriculture, but the thing was too that we also provided with insight from my brother the 5 minute conversations, the 15-minute conversations, because they're like, listen, dude, like nobody's gonna sit around for an hour. I'm like, okay,
Right.
yeah. And to your point, like the fatigue thing. But then with your work with Dunroven for so long and sharing some of the stuff on the ranch, it kind of also morphed some of our other focus towards something we never had intention whatsoever. It was all going to be discussion forum, like I said, and it also turned into the things that have made us more popular and gotten more of our following and people have enjoyed more from us that we had no intention of doing from the first place. So we've kind of pivoted focus a
Mhm.
little bit is the everyday events,
Right.
even if it's you and mom in the tractor scooping out manure out of the corrals or
Right.
going out and taking care of the horses or branding, like those have kind of turned into the babies, so to speak. And that's where some of the change too when I get home will be is how do we start doing more of these? Because that's clearly more popular and people enjoy it much more. And
Yeah.
it's worth more time to us to an extent. So how do we do it? The hard part's going to be incorporating it into everyday thing and not messing up our operations.
Well, and that's the problem is some of those to do things is we'll be able to uh really expand on some of the almost and can almost make this some series type things,
Yeah.
successional things of like training a horse. I've done some of those, but they're very difficult to do when you're by yourself, extremely difficult. And
Especially because
so,
if you hit record on your phone and you film it, it takes away up to an hour or more, and your phone's just sitting there.
right.
And then you have to go and sift through the stuff like, what do I want to show? Like it's just
Yep.
so much footage. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's wasted stuff, and then it's not always in a spot where you can be on camera all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's logistically it's very, very difficult. So there'll be some better things like that, I hope, or more improved. But I for boredom, back in the end of 19 and early 2020 when the pandemic started, um, I was here alone calving, and Braden helped me a little bit because he was kicked out of school with
Yeah, that's right.
the shutdown on the COVID, and he
That
was
was like
doing
the
commission.
last like what 4 or 5 weeks of their semester or
Well, it was the
something.
last semester, basically.
It was the entire semester.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that
yeah.
long.
It was a long time. So he was here, helping me calve and working on his pickup, and he was finishing his schooling. And we're, making little snippets. And you guys showed me how to get on your mother's Facebook and post stuff. So it was done poorly, but there was a lot of anecdotal things that was on there, some fun stuff and some stuff that was just happening. And so that kind of led into what we started doing a little bit more. And then with Dunroven as well, they asked if they get in on some of that, and we'd share it with them. So um, some fun stuff, some goofy stuff. I think I did one time with somebody. I I was putting on like I caught him stealing a calf,
Yeah, you
and
did.
showing him going
I was
down
in
the road.
Bagram and I saw that video and I got instantly pissed.
Yeah, I had you hooked, and then
Yeah.
it turned out asking them why they did that, and turns out they were trying to trade that calf for a 4 pack of Charmin. There was
Yeah.
a toilet paper shortage apparently or something. So yeah, that was fun.
Do you
So
remember the first video you had on Facebook that I took and once we started this, I put it on the channel? Do you remember which one that was?
don't know what that was. No.
It was the full video. You had a bunch of them. It started off with you saw a coyote in the pasture up
Oh,
in Shepherd.
yeah, I do remember that
And
one.
then that was a series too. You took I
Right,
think some of them were 30 seconds, a couple others were maybe 2 minutes, and
right.
I was starting to figure out editing and it kind of just threw it together. It looks now looking back on it, I was like, man, that looks horrible. But like, it's you got to start somewhere. So
Yeah, that's right. That colt just had a mare just foaled, and that colt was trying to get up on its feet and struggling, and here was a coyote coming in,
yeah,
and yeah, trying to work his way towards that new foal or at least the afterbirth.
I was gonna say afterbirth for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's kind of, I mean, looking back at us, we just spent 15 minutes talking about us. So, um,
yeah.
the the big things you said construction. What else do you have planned for me?
Well, we've got some fencing to do. We've got corral work to do. We've got welding to do. We've got manure spreading to do. We've got corrals to clean.
Calving.
Probably some more construction in there. Calving is going to be, yeah, we got a little bit of time before. calving starts. So you're going to get home, and then we're going to find a window of opportunity where we can worm everybody, bring them in, worm them, and then we're going to have to replace some ear tags on some cows.
Oh, I don't
And
mind that part. The
that's
worming part though doesn't sound.
yeah. Well, we'll put them in the head catch to do the tag, change tags out, and get them fresh tags that we can actually read for on some of them, and then give them a dose of wormer and kick them out, and next one's in. So it'll be probably less time to do that than it would to do preg testing.
We probably have a couple fillies that need a brand too, don't they?
Got a couple fillies we need to brand. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll tell you my priorities because I know they don't jive with yours. What people don't also know is that yes, I am living at home for free with my parents, who are retired. So talking about milking
Well,
off the
retired
system.
from a couple of jobs, but we got others.
Yeah. But I'll be going to school full time too while I'm home. So it's not like I'm just sitting around eating Cheetos all day, but I will be eating Cheetos to some extent. The the question is, my priorities are obviously school, and then a lot of it surrounding starting to apply my degree or what I'm working towards my degree a little bit to the ranch and stuff like that. Already been spitballing stuff with mom and dad that I think we'll keep that close to our chest until we talk about it more and have it more prepared as a discussion. But um the thing is too, I was thinking about this. One of my biggest priorities is actually the studio. Now, it's got to be careful for us because it has the potential of getting completely dismantled during construction. So we don't want to invest too much time, or at least we want to make something that I have in mind that's modular in approach so we can pull it together and pull it apart as needed. Um, so what do you think in terms of that? Like my idea is make the studio like we've already talked about it with the kind of the front face and everything modular setting. We got to get new equipment because these things are not going to work anymore because we to get the mixer to work we don't need USBs, we need actual the right AC components and all that stuff, which also means I have to learn a little bit more about that stuff. uh but that's like to an extent that's kind of my priority is setting up the studio so that we can have that new setup like I was talking about. We have filmed out, this is, believe it or not, people, this video is coming out mid-January, or we're filming mid-January and it's coming out in April. Like we're filming out months ahead so we can kind of prep for this. Those are obviously my priorities in order to get us kind of prepped and ready to try and go full fledged into YouTube and stuff with some of the stuff while I incorporate the regular daily life into things. What are your priorities? That's kind of like what I'm telling you on my side. I was curious what yours are.
Well, my priorities are a little bit larger in scope. Really, it's about doing everything we normally do at the ranch here. We got, I'm feeding right now, January, um, and have been feeding for a little while. We've got some cold weather here now. It's, coming up, going to be 20 below here within a couple of days. And so keeping animals fed, keeping water to them. And then I'm doing a little bit of construction work myself on that new shop, trying to get it insulated so that we can heat it to the minimum, at least just keep it, uh 35, 40 degrees in there at least. And building shelves so that you can have all of your stuff kind of put into an area of it when you come
Yeah.
home. Uh, but once you're here, then it's about calving, running the normal ranch stuff the whole time, and then, the other part-time job, but making it easy for you to be able to finish your degree. That's part of the whole reason why you're coming home. And your mother and I have talked you into this, I think more than anything, is like, look, you don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
Your stuff is paid off. We can use the help. You can use the time to just really hit your studies hard and work on your master's degree, get that thing knocked out, get it done. And, you got to do it one way or another. If for some reason you find a job or get a job and you can still do that, hey, that's okay too. But it's a matter of just prioritizing the animals and you over everything else. And then the construction, whatever we got to do when it warms up, comes second. But we got to get through calving and branding and get everybody out to summer pasture, and then we kind of work on fencing and swinging hammers and doing all that other stuff that we've got planned. And the studio thing is, yeah, it's for me, it's a lower priority. I know you really want to get it done because you want to be able to do that, but you're right. It may be a little bit more mobile than you want to. So we
Yeah.
have may have a little interim look before we have a final
Yeah.
real permanent one.
Well, I mean, not to let the cat out of the bag too much here. We're trying to get more construction than just on the house too. So the potential is that there would be a dedicated studio area underneath where my main living area would be. That's kind of generically what we're thinking, but it wouldn't be just for like one thing. It would be multiple things. It would more or less the ranch office space, so to speak, would be really kind of moved into that location for
Yeah.
a good portion of it so that it's dedicated space and it's not in living areas. Because if everybody's familiar with a ranch, man, or a farm, the family business is typically run from the coffee table or the
Kitchen
dining room
table.
table.
Yeah.
And I hate that. It's a lack of professionalism, in my opinion. And it also disorganization,
Well,
frustration
and
when it
it's
comes to trying to put reports in and stuff.
yep.
It's a better focused area.
You're absolutely right. And I'll sit in the morning and be trying to sip on a cup of coffee, and I've got a pile of papers beside me on the table that I'm looking through. That's what I need to work on. And you're right. It would be much better to do that at a desk like where I'm sitting at now. But it's trying to put space into where there's not enough room, and
Right.
so hence all those construction stuff that we've got to do and change and make better.
Yeah. Well, and the tough part too is spent the last 7 years kind of building a life on my own, and now I gotta find out a way or a place to put all this stuff.
Yeah, that's you don't realize what you accumulate. It's
Yeah.
kind of fun,
Well,
but
we've gone through the checklist. Like really the big thing is I left with a queen bed, a small little tiny 3 foot by 2 foot bar that's maybe 4 feet in height at most, and some chairs and a small table, like a
yeah.
coffee table. I'm coming back with two beds, a entertainment center, a pretty good sized entertainment center, an office, the bar
Couch.
still. What's that?
Yeah, couch.
A couch that's a pull-out couch. It's a queen size pull-out couch, a recliner, a couple TVs. Like it's not like I just didn't like save anything at all. Like yeah, whatever. But here we are. It's what it is. What's kind of your focus? I know you're talking daily operations, but um, are you looking to do improvements or anything, or is
Oh
it
yeah.
mostly like trying to do maintenance type stuff?
No, we've it's both. You got to have the maintenance stuff going on
Yeah.
too, but we've got this add-on on the shop that's a overhead or a overhang off of the old barn, and we can put some storage stuff in there. We'll need to frame the front of that and then finish it, and then put a couple of roll-up doors on that, and so we
Oh,
can
so
get
you
some.
plan on putting roll up doors on that? I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Oh, nice. Okay. I thought it's
yeah.
just gonna be open like a lean-to.
No, it is for now, but when you get home,
Right.
we're going to start framing on that too. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we'll improve that as well. But um, I mean, I think it's important to get that kind of taken care of. And then your mom's got a vision on one end of it or the far end of it that attaches to the corral to make that kind of a place where you can get a horse in there. It's going to be about I guess what about 14 by 20. It'd be
That
a
was
heck of a nice,
that was
open
mom trying to get the
outdoor.
ponies out of the weather, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
We had an episode about that.
Yeah. Well, and at least it's for the stallion. Yeah, stud he can get in there when the wind's blowing, but we can also get him in the barn when the wind's blowing hard. I've done that, open that up so he can come and go in the cabin jug where as he wishes.
Yeah. Um, the other question too. So I didn't realize I knew you guys were going to construct the addition to the shop the way you did. So if anybody's seen us aerially, uh, uh eventually we'll show it. It used to be just a barn and it was a straight barn that went north south.
Yeah.
in direction.
40 by 80, and the 40, the north 40 foot of that was uh or 30 foot of it was 30 foot wide, 40 foot deep, which is the shop portion, but the rest of it is the barn.
Yeah.
50
Now,
by 40 is a
now
barn.
you've added onto the west side, so now it looks kind of like an L.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I had no idea you were doing that overhang the way you did. I like it, but I also immediately noticed that takes away an access gate for a tractor. So what's the new plan for that?
Well, we're gonna have to do a little bit of maintenance and
Mm,
changes. And but that gate will stay there because that will be an access for animals to
right,
go into that.
right.
But then instead of going straight into that, then we just have to open a second gate, which we're gonna have to redo and put an overhead in so that it's nice and stable and holds that fence up real well, and then you can get in. So
I
yeah,
was gonna say
it's
that the corner needed to be that west corner there
yeah,
needed to be corrected anyway.
yep,
So
it did.
I kind of figured you were gonna do that. So
Yep. Yep.
great minds think alike. Figure
Yeah, that's
that.
exactly what's got to take place. So, and I mean, there's always stuff to do. We've got some corral repairs to do. We may even put in once everything's kind of constructed or done what we want to have done, is that we're going to probably make a pipe type um, lean-to shelter that is going to be using old steel off of what we pulled off of the shop and reskinned half of that and the roof, and we will repurpose that steel as a shed for maybe like the heifers,
Mm.
calving, where they got just kind of a shelter area next to the west side of the corral on that, what we call the arena pen, but is where we do our the have the heifers and close calvy cows at calving time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Be a real
The
It'll be a nice improvement to do that, but we'll make a pipe structure out of it and then uh fill in with probably 2 by 6 and then attach the uh steel sheeting to it.
You said fencing several times, so now I'm curious, what sections of fence need it the most? Because I know there's parts that are still old, like they still got the telegraph brace across the fence post. Like
Yeah, there's
what?
not much of that left. That's mostly gone. There's a couple spots like that, but we've got a little pasture that 40 acre north of the house. Um, we got a fence between it and the well pasture, what we call a well pasture, and that we need to do a little work on that one. But the most important one is finishing up from where when you and Caitlin were out here in May and June,
Oh,
going from there all the way to the end of that corner of that pasture, and then from that
yeah.
corner a mile to the east. That all needs to be redone.
Which you and mom did a great job doing from the top down,
Yeah.
and you did a video of that. And it looked really good. But now you're saying we gotta finish that out going the opposite direction.
Yeah. And that will be pretty easy really because we're going to pull some old posts that are access for the overhead power lines. You have to maintain access for the power companies
Yeah.
to come through there and you know they have an easement. They can come through there anytime they want, not because we wanted them to, but kind of eminent domain type of thing that they took it. And then they force you to build fences and gates into spots where you wouldn't normally do that. But I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, there's not much you can do to change that. So we will pull a post for those braces that are on those gates because they're bad. They're old. And I think some of those were put in like 1974, 73. And so
I was
there's
just thinking about the wire itself, but yeah, the post too. But the wire is so brittle and old that
Yeah, and
it's
some of that's
disintegrating.
on some of that is woven wire too that my great grandpa put
Oh,
in there.
I
So
forgot
we got to
about that.
roll that crap up and it'll be going to scrap. But yeah, and then there's a couple 2 or 3 wires on top of that. But we will go back in with all barbed wire. But it shouldn't be that bad because we'll pull those posts and we'll re-drill them. Well, they're already drilled. You know, it isn't like
Yeah.
we're going through putting in a brace where there's not been one before, like we did last summer when you were home and your mom and I finished that. So it won't be bad. That really won't be that bad. It'll just take some time, and of course, takes money.
Oh, yeah, just that little green stuff in your pocket or
Yeah,
not in your pocket, so to
posts and wire. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go down a hole on that one, so I'm gonna stop. Is there is there an official list? Like, have you written down a list that says these are the things that I want to do? Or is it all just in that noodle? Yeah, of course it is.
That and I look around and I go, yeah, you gotta do that. Oh,
See,
I've got a
do you know
few
how
things.
inefficient that is? Because then you forget things and you're like, oh yeah, I gotta do that. And then you come to it like six times, and by the time you come to it the sixth time, you're like, okay, now it's a priority.
It's a ranch. Priorities change every day.
I really wish there would be some sort of list so that we could at least look at it. Be like, hey,
Yeah,
I
no,
got
I've got a few things written down. I really do. Where some gates go, and yeah, I've done that. Not all of them, but I try.
what do you think is gonna be the most involved? Do you think it's gonna be stuff like in the corrals slash pens, like that corner gate that you were talking about earlier, or is it gonna be somewhere else?
No, that deals that's a day. That's a 1 day event.
Okay, that just turned into a week. All right.
I sound like your mother.
Mom and I had a draft. Do you remember this draft? It was a little over a year ago. We talked about you saying, "Oh, it's only going to take 2 hours." Well, it takes at least one measurement times 10. And so you go 2 days means, or 2 hours, let's say 2 hours. 2 hours equals 2 weeks because that's two measurements, right? Hour, day, week. And then you double it. So it's 4 weeks.
Okay, you just went from 2 hours to a double that to 2 weeks instead of 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't think your math is really up to snuff, but
Well, that's
um,
close enough. So,
no, it's not going to be that bad, honestly. So the biggest thing is some of the construction around um, the garage that we want to try to put an addition on,
yeah.
or not an addition, but build a garage and then have a place for you to put more stuff inside of there and a little apartment for people when they show up.
I
Just
was gonna say,
it's just a place to sleep and get a shower and pretty low rent accommodations.
I was gonna say that the little setup, if we can get that up and running, like the biggest thing we've talked about is just the fact that a lot of my stuff can go in there, that it might
Yeah,
own possessions, and then not only is it stored, but it's also like somebody comes and it's immediately live in. Like you can
right.
just drop your
Yeah,
bags and suddenly you have a small home to stay in, which is kind of like that's the goal.
right. No, it'd be kind of nice for that for guests and stuff, but just another place because it seems like we have people here and not enough places.
Yeah, increasingly so too.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking about too, is like, for example, branding this upcoming year. Once this releases, it'll be about probably 5 weeks or so, maybe 6 weeks. And in my head, we've already got people that are one's a strong commit because they got the plane tickets, you got that. But then we've got others that are saying, hey, like Greg and Bert, then
Mhm.
they have a kid with them that is coming from, I think the Middle East is where she's from. She's a foreign exchange student, never seen this stuff before,
Right.
and is interested in potentially experiencing it firsthand. So it's like suddenly we have a bunch of bodies all at once. And that's how it works. It's never trickled throughout the year. It's always just jammed back. And we're like, well, that's where my head was going too. I was like, you got the wall tent still available? Because I
Oh
might
yeah.
be sleeping in that for a couple nights.
Yeah, we'll have to put up a pole frame for it and tie it to it, and we're good to go.
Yeah, put it behind the house. But um I had I had other questions too. I don't remember. Now, see, this is what happens when I'm not the one really running the show. You are, so
Did you write it down? Maybe you should have.
I did. I read from it earlier. I'm talking about your list though, because I
Oh,
don't have your
yeah.
list. You're the one that only
Yeah,
has
no,
that.
uh we got some horses to work too.
Oh, that's right. You got some those fillies. They're gonna be two or
They're gonna
three
be two, but we got a stallion
groundwork.
that needs to be worked, and then also we got some client work to do, and I think you're gonna probably get the straw on that one. If you have one a little income, then you're gonna be doing that one. You've
Yeah,
you've actually trained a horse for this lady before.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it Carlos?
Yeah,
the horse
yeah,
Carlos. Yeah. We
yeah.
came
The
up with
horse.
this really long, ridiculous name and she did not appreciate it. Um, she thought it was funny at first, but then she's like, okay, guys, this is annoying. You need to stop. So,
I don't
he's a
remember
good
what
little
you were
pony
calling
though.
him. But
Oh, it was like Don Carlos, Don Del
Don Juan
Fuego.
Carlos. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
it just got longer by the day. It was
yeah,
just
yeah.
and he
No,
was like super laid back,
he
but
was a good pony. You did a good job on him.
that's good to
So
hear.
you got to do another. You got to do another one because she called me, asked me, if she could get on. This has been several years ago because
Yeah.
she was going to breed the mare, and I said, yeah, we'll hold a spot for you then. And the horse last year, she says, I think she's just a little bit small. It's a filly. Says, I think she's a
Uh-huh.
little small. I want to wait a year. And I said, that's completely fine. That's absolutely. So
Looking for
she's
the
going to be
like an
4.
episode we did recently, looking for the horse's health, like making sure
Yeah.
they're all right.
Yeah. And she says, how much to train the horse? And I told her, and it's high. And she goes, "Psst, worth it. No problem. So I was like, good. And I'm glad to hear that. When you have a repeat customer like that with a fresh
Yeah.
training and they're still regarding it as quality work, then that's always a good thing.
I feel like it's crazy. Like this is the part of like the horse training and the ranch work that kind of boggles my mind. People are like, "Oh, we can't get on your list to get training," but like I don't know, there's a weird thing. It's like we talk about how your income is super low as a ranching entity, but then at the same time like we can't produce the output that people like, let's say Cameron oh, I just lost his last name. Famous trainers, horse trainers. Um, why did I just lose his name? There's also the Aussie dude. Lost his name too. I'm
Yeah, but
blanking right now.
they're training horses, but they're more clinicians too, and they're hitting that shtick pretty hard.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, if I couldn't be a clinician without being a trainer first, right? I had to train a lot of horses before you learn a lot and can teach and have something valuable that you can pass on to somebody else or problem solve for them. You have to have the experience. So those guys
yeah,
have all trained. It's just that now a lot of times you take some sponsorships, which we've talked about before, and
right.
now they're setting stuff up, so you're doing nothing but being a clinician. So I still think that you need to train and continue to train so you still have new and more perspective type of events happen so that you can apply that to your clinician work.
Sure. The other thing too I'm thinking about too as well is like I can't help but think that if you were to do that full time and you were to do an output of, let's say, uh, what do you think would be uh realistic? 50 horses a year?
You could, if you did it nothing but full time, you could do 50 horses a year, but
Yeah,
it's full-time job. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like you're literally your 8 to 5 every single day is horses.
Or
Um,
longer, and you're not doing anything else.
right. And so that's what I was gonna say is how much of that would wear on you and the fact that you wouldn't be able to do ranch work.
Oh, that a lot. I mean, because those horses, I mean, you've seen me working a horse and I'm just about done, and then all of a sudden something happens and you can't quit. You have to continue to go to find a spot where you can quit, and it might take you an hour to get there.
Yeah,
Well, you've just chewed up a bunch of time that should have been focused somewhere else, and that can happen. And you have to push a horse a little bit, but you can't over push them. And so you can underutilize your time and make it um, not efficient training because you're not doing enough, or you can overdo it and then make it not efficient because you're spending too much time with them. And you still got to spend time with them, but it's whether it's constructive or not, or repair of something that just occurred. So, and I'm not talking, they're breaking into and being stupid. It's a matter of their having a behavior issue that all of a sudden they decide, no, I don't want to do that, and you gotta make them do it, but make it that's their idea, and it's taking the pressure and release, and it might take a while to do that. Sometimes they will get just absolutely defiant. And so you have to work through that and do it without blowing them up and without making things worse, but making it easier. So then you're building on the trust and getting them to understand that no, you're not in charge, I am. So it's all about working them. And when you have that happen, all of a sudden, if you thought you needed to go and repair some fence somewhere, guess what? You just lost an hour of time or
Yeah.
whatever time, and you complicate that with more than, do a half a dozen horses a day or at a time, which is doable. I've done it before, and worked a full-time job. It was tough, took a lot of time, but you didn't get much else done.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions I could have on that, but I think that's a better for a different discussion, a more focused discussion. But okay. So we've talked fences, fixing corrals, doing some horse work, more fences, gates, um, the barn, potentially construction. What else are we missing here?
Well, spread manure and then harrow. You got to harrow some fields, some
That's not hard
pastures.
though. I feel
No,
like
it's
that's
not, but it's
that's
time
probably
consuming.
like an afternoon job. We could like once it hits about noon and it's warmed up, you can stick the bucket in the pile, throw it in the back of the thing, spread it out, and then you hit it with the harrow. Am I wrong? Or
It's actually better if you can do that when it's cool and just before a rain. That would be fantastic to do that.
yeah, but what I'm saying like temperature wise, I would imagine around noon or later because then it's not like especially in the springtime, it's frozen and it's hard to like dig into and break apart.
Well, it is, but if you did that, yeah, well, it doesn't do you any good then, or it doesn't do as good. But if you have um, say you're pulling a small harrow with say a pickup instead of a tractor, you're going slow, and now if it's hot, you can overheat an engine. So
Yeah.
you gotta use your equipment at the right time too. But I love it when I know a storm's coming in a couple of days. Then I'll do a bunch of harrowing, get that stuff knocked out, and then that way that rain hits it, and then it's gold.
Yeah. That's a good point. Um,
Got a bunch
writing
of
two things.
firewood to cut.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's probably best to do that in the summertime before it gets cold and you actually need it though. So,
It's optimum to do that when, get on a chainsaw, get it cut, get it in a pile, and then split it and stack it, and then let it dry. And that's a good thing because we got a whole semi load of fir that was brought in, and it's fir and a little bit of lodgepole, but we're probably talking a dozen cord, and so we'll cut it in chunks and get the splitter on it and knock it out because it's all green. It needs to be split
yeah, it's got to be.
and it's a pain to split green wood, but it's better than just waiting. I mean, you can still do that too and let it dry in the small, you know, chunks that you put it into, but it doesn't quite get as dry as it could split.
Not not to go off of too much of a tangent here, but I've gone I've gone to the Louisville Slugger Museum and I've gone to all the distilleries.
You
Um,
did. You've hit the entire bourbon trail.
the signature and the craft, yep. And the two the things the thing that those two different sectors have in common is wood. The bat for the Slugger Museum and then Slugger Museum slash factory, active factory, and the wood for the barrels for the whiskey.
Mhm.
The thing that they've said at both places, and I've heard it multiple times in the distilling sector, and then of course I heard it the one time when I was at the Slugger Museum was they set that wood, they'll cut it, those massive trees for like the sluggers, because they'll get like so many bats out of each tree.
Those are like hickory, right? For the
It
bats?
depends. It depends on the bat.
Really?
Yeah, it depends on the bat, which is crazy. But it also depends on the batter. So the batter, the pro batter, will each team apparently has one individual batter who gets an exclusive deal with Louisville Slugger. And you when you go in there, you see their names up on the wall, and that's literally their bat. And so
Huh.
it's a square, and they'll take that square, and then you can see the process of how that square turns into a bat eventually. Um,
But they let that wood cure first.
they let that wood for the barrels and the bats cure for up to like 18 months outside,
Yeah.
just untouched. And
Yeah.
that to me that's crazy. So it's an important process even for firewood, which is crazy.
Well, but if they're doing a natural dry, then I mean, if you take a piece of wood and do that, you'll see as it dries, it twists
Yeah.
and it bends. And you try to keep it flat, but it will take a twist. And part of that Coriolis effect that takes place as it's growing. So Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. But when it's fully dried, then it shouldn't move anymore.
Okay. So that's yeah, that one's just more time consuming, I think, than anything. That'll be a thing that we chip away at,
Oh yeah,
pun intended,
yep.
over time. Where like, hey, we got a couple hours at the end of the day. You ready to go knock some of this out? And I'll
Hey,
probably say, if you give me a beer at the end, yeah.
what we'll probably do is get your brother over here. He's kind of a chainsaw wizard.
Yeah, he can
He,
work the chainsaw. I don't care to work the chainsaw. I'll split. Um the the question though, because we got 45 minutes now, so now I want to get to some fun stuff. That's all the work. Work, 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 work. Are there any fun things that you have planned?
no, we don't have fun here. All we do is work. You know what? We got this fire pit your mom and I built last summer.
Yeah, and you guys did a great job with that. It looks great. I know
Yep.
you continue to improve on it, but it looks fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's done. And then we got pavers down around it. I mean,
Yeah.
natural rock that we have here from the ranch, and we put it all in place, and grass is growing up through it. And I built that fire pit so that it's got smokeless, and it does a really good job. It smokes to begin with, but once you get everything hot, that air, kind of like those solo camp stoves, or not a camp stove, but those solo stoves, has
Yeah.
that idea where the air is coming up around the outside and then it shoots in and combusts the smoke, because smoke is just non-combustible material, and it will shoot that air in there, hot air, and cause that smoke to combust. So you have very, very little smoke coming out of a campfire or a big uh, fire on that. So we got some benches that'll go around that and some chairs, and be nice
Oh,
to
that's
it's
right. You guys just got benches delivered
yeah.
too, right? And you need to
Yeah, your
make those.
mom got some bench ends that you can stick 2x4s through, which is kind of a cool idea, but we'll see how they work. But being able to do that and sit out, look at the stars. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is so nice to sit out of an evening in the summer and drinking a cold beer and letting the sun go down and having a fire, or then not having a fire and looking at all the stars and watching satellites go over and identifying stuff. I know it's cheap entertainment, but it's just kind of, it's quiet and it's relaxing.
Yeah.
That's nice. And we'll go and maybe see some sights if we get a chance. We get some special visitors here, then we'll go out and do some sightseeing, and maybe going to like Lewis and Clark Caverns, and
Oh, that'd be
uh,
kind of cool.
yeah, there's all kinds of stuff we can do that, there's a lot of things to see here locally that we just don't take the time to do because we're busy
Yeah.
working.
Is talking special visitors, is Ron gonna be around anytime? Because I have some stories I need to hear from him.
Good luck getting him on a camera.
Well,
Yeah.
that's fine. I
Yeah.
just need the stories because I got a
He
project.
probably will. He may show up. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise
Yeah.
me a bit. He did last summer, so it was great. He was here for a couple, 3 days, and left the day that I started teaching a clinic here, a private clinic, and it was awesome to have him here. It was really a good time. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, so it was really fun. That's my dad's not his twin brother, but the next youngest brother.
Yeah. Um, okay. So visitors, are we gonna go see any breweries?
Yes, we're gonna go see some breweries. Absolutely.
Now that I'm in good beer country, I gotta go see breweries again, man. Like, gotta get it. I gotta get my fix.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing we're going to do too is, come to think of something else to do this is go back to work, is I want to improve a little bit on our feeding from our steers, some of the infrastructure there, and we'll
Yeah.
work on a little bit of that. That'll be nice to do that so we can feed up some steers easily. We hand feed them. They get some special care. This isn't just a mass production thing. They get some really, really good care, and some exact kind of science behind the feeding. So want to be able to make that a little bit more streamlined.
Yes. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that'll be helpful too, especially for feeding out. That's what you're talking about, making
Yep.
sure yeah. Okay. Are there any specific breweries, going back to that, that you have in mind for visiting?
Ones with beer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple. You got some favorites that you like to go to, and it's always good to go see them. And the one in Big Timber, it's the
Oh
Crazy
yeah.
Mountain in the Circle T tap room.
Yeah.
I went in there several years ago, and I've been trying to get somebody to do a smoked porter. and he keeps claiming he's going to do one. And every time I see him, like at we go to an annual thing called the Beers and Barbecue and Brews and Barbecue in Billings, and he's usually there. And every time I see him, it's like, hey, he goes, yeah, I know I'm working on it. No, I'll get to it. But
I imagine
it'll
he's probably trying to finagle the recipe so it's the way he wants it, if I would imagine.
yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But it's God, that's a smoked porter. Oh, it makes my mouth water. That's a good
I
one.
there's some that we're gonna have to make a trip to the western part of the state because
Yeah.
there's some that are still in the passport that I need to get. I know you and mom need to get, and we're gonna have to travel a little bit to get those. But like
Yeah.
one part of the country for us that I don't think I've really been to, or if I was super little and I don't remember, is like the Dillon, the Beaverhead
Yeah.
area.
I was just gonna say going down by Virginia City, Bannock.
Yep. Yep.
I want to take you guys down there and
I
I
know
want to
there's
see.
several breweries. That's why I'm saying that because
Yeah.
I was looking, I was like, oh, that's a good reason to go down there, hit some breweries, see some cool sights down there. Because, like you said, there's ghost towns and all that down there.
Oh yeah. Well, you know the it was a territorial um seat of government
Capital.
there, you know.
Yeah. Bannock,
So
right? Or Virginia City.
Bannock,
Bannock,
Bannock
yeah.
was the original, but yeah, there's Virginia City. There's those are towns are touristy, but at the same time, I know some people there too. So it's my my old academy roommate just retired about a year ago from being the sheriff there. He was a chief of police for a long time and then retired from that and then became the sheriff for a couple of terms, I think. I think it was a couple, maybe just one, but finally retired. And so I know him. I haven't seen him in years. Be good to catch up with him and some other people that I happen to know and see
Yeah,
some
that'd be good.
sights.
That'd be
Yeah.
good. And then maybe we could possibly swing by Dunroven real quick and hit the Lolo Brewery right across the
Yeah.
street from them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's always places to go. It seems like we always seem to want to have a purpose before we go somewhere. So and then we work
Yeah,
these brewery things in because it's like, you're just driving around looking at breweries. Not that we haven't done that because we did do
we
that
did one
one
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We took about
Which that
three
was
days.
cool too, because I'd never seen Glacier before. Of
Yeah.
all my years being alive, I think I would have been 25 at the time, 26,
Yeah.
and I'd never been to Glacier. And so we got to at least go up to Glacier, see that part of the country too,
Yeah. Go through
and
it.
then come
Yeah.
back down to Missoula. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, I have a strong question for you that you may or may not answer the way I want you to.
Okay.
There's a there's a sport that I really enjoy playing in the summertime.
Golf.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Would you partake in a round of golf with me?
Well,
Or two or
I've
three?
tried, but I suck. I'm
Oh, so do I. It's
horrible.
all right.
Your
You're
brother
not
gets
there.
mad when I play because I suck, and he's just
Well,
wants to keep going.
you don't have him and I can play separate. So
Okay,
we're there to have fun. You know, I
I've only played a few times. I just suck. I'm bad at
there's
it.
a golf course about 30 minutes away from the ranch. If people are
Yep.
not familiar, it's a 9-hole course. So if you're gonna play a full round, you gotta go through that puppy twice.
Oh, there's
Um,
one in Roundup too. Roundup and
there is.
Harlan.
That's also a 9-hole. The problem is it's more windy in. Oh, you're talking Roundup.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize Roundup. That's one. I was thinking Big Timber. Big Timber is way
Oh,
more
Big
windy,
Timber. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but that's also a 9-hole. But I've never been to the Roundup one. I've seen the Big Timber one. Huh. Okay, good to know. So anyway, considering I was looking at some of the prices for the seasonal club membership for the one in, if this isn't back country for you, the Jawbone, I think it's Jawbone Creek is what they
Yep.
call it, Jawbone Creek Golf Course
Yep.
or Country Club.
Sits
That,
right off of Jawbone Creek. Yeah.
yep. I was looking at the seasonal rates. I was like, you know what? It might be worth it for me to get a
Seasonal.
club membership for
Oh,
myself
really?
there. Yeah, just because it's actually affordable enough that I could play enough times and pay it off. But the question is if you would go golfing with me. So it sounds like the answer is yes. We
Oh,
just have
I'd
to
go
go
with you.
without Braden.
Yeah.
It's okay because you tend to have more fun golfing with less competitive people anyway, because they're there for fun, not for winning.
Well, he is so competitive on it. Well, it's
I,
on everything he does, though. He is
I
just
am
so
too, but like
competitive.
at the same time, I've played with guys that are so much better than me that it's just like I'm here to have fun because if I'm
Yeah,
trying to compete with guys that are 20 strokes better than me, then I'm gonna be miserable every time I play. So it's
right.
like I'm not gonna do that.
Well, I'm very competitive too, but I know when I suck, I suck, and
Yeah, you need
I
some
don't
work
know how to
before you
get
can get into
better.
the competitive leagues, is what you're saying.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
I might be
Um,
able to do okay on the blind man's league, but I'd have
okay.
to fake my way on it. Yeah.
Well, in that case, what we can do is we can get you like the Happy Gilmore style and get you on your belly and use the club as like a pool cue and
Oh,
just
there
hit
you
it
go.
real
Now I
hard
can
down
do
the
that.
green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your grandpa used to call that whack dam instead of
Oh,
golf. It was,
they
yeah,
say it
whack
a little
dam.
bit different, but yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
All right. The last fun question I got, and I think we've talked about it briefly before. Are you still up for doing a mountain trip with the ponies?
Oh yeah, I'm always up for that.
All right.
We've got to get a few ponies in shape for that and get
Yeah.
them ready for we can do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I haven't been able to get in the backcountry on a pack trip in a couple of years now. We've been too
As I
busy.
say, the last time I remember going on one, we went with Grandpa on his last trip.
That would have been your last one and his last one. Yeah, that's right. I think I've gone on a few on my own since then. I know I have, but yeah, that was the last one that we were in there for what, 3, 4 days?
I think we were longer than that. It was closer to a week, if I remember right.
It might have been. Yeah, I know it was. I knew it at the time, and I told you boys that might be Grandpa's last time to be in the
Yeah.
backcountry, so he doesn't have to do a thing. And you guys did a pretty good job of doing everything.
Now, I have been in the backcountry with you since then, but it was for day rides, not
Yeah, just training
extended,
rides. Yep.
yeah, overnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and we have a location. We're not going to share that, nor will we ever share that location because that's our secret hidey hole and we don't want people going to it. So, it is in the mountains. It's somewhere in Montana, and that's pretty much all we're going to say. But the big thing about that is my big goal going back, let's go full circle here, studio time. Um, trying to get some film on it, and I think I'm
Oh,
gonna try to take. I got a solar panel charger, so I can charge power banks and stuff, and we can use our phones while we're out there, even though they won't have service. Um, but then I'm gonna have to really think about it, but I might try to take the drone too.
oh. Yeah, I might want to, yeah, do some dry runs on that to see if that thing will charge a battery or not.
Yeah, but
Thing
that's kind
about,
of where my head's
yeah,
leaning is I want to see if we can take that drone up there. If not, that's fine. We can find a day trip where we go somewhere and we can do the drone stuff then. But
yeah.
I that's kind of where my head's at, and that'll be something that potentially comes out on the channel in like August time frame. So
Well, see, and the way I'm looking at this is that that's really not fun time. I think that's necessary horse training time.
well, and necessary YouTube channel time. So I
There you
mean,
go. This is
it's
kind of a
all
work
full
trip.
circle. It's for the business, man.
There
Like
you
we got
go.
to make
Yeah.
some sacrifices and go
Oh,
up
I
into bear
know.
country.
I know.
And it's got to be bear country because otherwise mom's going to come with us.
Whoops.
Fun
Yeah.
fact for anybody,
Oops.
mom will not go to
I
the
heard
mountains.
that.
Oh, there's mom.
Uh-oh.
Mom will
Nice
not go to the
job.
mountains if she knows there's bears around.
That's horrible. You shouldn't say that about your mother.
Anyway, that's all I got. That's a lot of stuff, man. But
All
as long
right.
as it's in the name of work, I think we'll be all right.
There you go. Yeah, we'll call it working even if it's not work. That's
Yeah.
how I get your mother to work. I said, this is going to be fun. Let's go
Yeah.
fence for the day. It'll only take about an hour.
You can film.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shoot. All right. Well, I guess nothing more on that. Then the only thing we can do is thank you for showing up. And that's all the pay you're going to get until you're better paid.